Everybody. Welcome to a portion of Have a Seat in My Chair, which is today called Let's Talk About It with Wanda. And today we have an amazing topic, which is apply pressure. And so I want you to sit back, relax, maybe get some paper and a pencil paper, a pen and a piece of paper as we dive into the subject. You ready? Then let's go.
Let's talk about it.
Hey, everybody. Happy Sunday. I'm so happy to be here. I know it's been a very long time, but we are back with Let's Talk About It with Wanda, which is a spinoff from Have a Seat in My Chair, which is Beauty Industry Talks with Wanda. But here in Let's Talk About It, we will talk about various subjects. Today, our topic is apply pressure. Apply pressure. That's right. Now, if you have been following me, I have joined together with Dr. Inisa Mathis, and she jump-started this whole series on apply pressure. And she started it out with a 4-week Bible study. So if you have not heard, listened to, or even seen that Bible study, I promise you it is life shifting, not just changing, but life shifting. And so you can find some of those Bible studies on my page, but you need to go to Dr. Inisa Mathis' page and listen to those Bible studies, because each week they have been phenomenal. They really have. And I waited for my portion because I wanted her to finish hers and be released. And she was released last week. So I am here. I will be here every Sunday. Our banner says Monday. We've changed it to Sunday so that we would be able to incorporate more people being able to come on Sunday at 4 in the afternoon Pacific Standard Time, allows people in the East Coast to catch it before they go to bed, right? So I thought that was pretty cool. So we are no longer on Sundays. On Mondays. We are on Sundays at 4 p.m. So let's dive into this subject today, apply pressure. But Wanda, what do you mean apply pressure? Well, there are many ways we can apply pressure. But today we're talking about apply pressure specifically. But before I get started, I'm excited. I'm rushing. I haven't done this in a minute. Let me take a moment to introduce myself to you. My name is Wanda L. Floyd. I am the owner of WLF Academy, the Brains and Beauty Business Academy, and soon to be reopened Inspirational Cuts and Designs Hair Care Center. I am a mother. I am an entrepreneur. I'm an author. I do some things in ministry. And right now I'm just working out my purpose. How about that? And so I am here doing what I have been assigned to do. And that is to help people understand before we leave this year out that we need to apply pressure. So that's just a little bit about me. This will end with an in-person seminar, just a very quick seminar that will be held here in the Bay Area. And Dr. Inisa Mathis will be our keynote speaker, but we will have a few other speakers that will be a part of that program. And that's just to end everything after we've done these lessons, and I've done my lessons, and we've had a few guests on to explain to you about applying pressure in different areas of our life. Because when I look at this apply pressure, I'm not just looking at it spiritually. We're looking at it mind, body, and spirit. And Dr. Mathis started this off talking about how we can apply pressure spiritually. Now, today, I'm going to tap a little bit into that spiritual part as well. So I hope you're ready. Let's dive in. Now, I just want you to know that I've been on these internet streets. I've been on these internet streets. You can't help it. I come on to daily to post, and I have Instagram as well. And when you're an entrepreneur, you try to keep yourself relevant and the things that are going on. But the things that when I open up my social media pages, the things that I am seeing from the kingdom, not talking about the world today, I'm talking about the kingdom, is a little disheartening. It's a little disturbing. I have seen some things when I open up my social media pages, and it just bam, it hits you straight in the face. But as I'm seeing these things and people commenting on these things, and because I am in the season of what we call Sukkot, which is the fall feast season. And in that season, we do a lot of introspection. And while I'm in this season of introspection, while I'm looking at me and examining me and my life and where I've fallen short, some of the good things. And man, if we're honest, it's a lot of things that we did not do according to his word, right? And so while I'm doing my introspection, there were a lot of things that came across my social media feed that I looked at, clicked into, read comments, and then got ready to comment. And then I thought about it and I backed back out. There was a lot of that I had to do. One or two that if I could not just leave scripture or I couldn't leave encouragement, then I just left it alone, because I've realized that even though somebody posts something, it does not necessarily mean that I need to comment on everything. Some things I just can look at, view it, okay, keep my opinions to myself and keep going, because sometimes we got to realize and look at it. Is this going to benefit my salvation in any way? And I think that as believers, we have gotten to a point where we are not following the instructions that Yahweh gave us when it comes to handling things that are going on in the church. And a lot of those things that are going on are hitting our social media pages. Why? Because somebody's in church. Instead of focusing on the word and instead of focusing on the message and getting their Bible and reading, we now have these. And these capture things that I honestly feel like should never even be exposed to the public unless the church is live streaming and they want the public to see. But we have a lot of these in our churches now, which is bringing a lot of content to the social media pages. And as believers, we're doing a lot of commenting on it because we have opinions on it. But I'm here today to tell you that we must be very, very, very careful as to what we participate in. When I began to think about this and when it was given to me to talk about, one of the first things that I thought about was the Garden of Eden and the enemy, what it said about the enemy. Now, I was going to attempt to share my screen with you, but since this is my first time on live in a long time, until I get these features down, I don't want to mess anything up. So I'm just going to read it to you, all right? But you can read along with me if you're at home. We're going to Genesis chapter 3. And there's a reason for that, because as believers, we cannot get laxed. We cannot get caught up in what everybody else is doing. We have to be sober, be vigilant. We can't let our eyes and our ears and our post are typing on our cell phones just run to anything, run to mischief. We must be careful because, as Dr. Mathis always tells us, we're in the 1159th hour. We really don't have time to be caught up in what everybody's doing. And right now, as Christian or Christendom, we really aren't looking like Yahweh or God expects us to look. We are looking more like the world, and we are self-afflicting our own wounded. We're kicking our own wounded. We're stabbing daggers in our own wounded by using it as a subject of discussion. We're making posts about it. While somebody else has already made posts about it, then we come and we decide that we're going to make posts about it and we're going to discuss it. And I just want you to know that we always say that we want to be like Jesus. We want to look like Yeshua, right? Well, are we looking like Yeshua? If we would measure up or view Christendom, the church today, and our actions and how we handle our wounded and how we handle our pastors, our clergymen, how we handle our lay people, does it look like what is explained to us it should look like in the Word of God? And so today, that's what we're going to talk about. We're talking about applied pressure, but we're going to talk about applying the pressure of the Word in these circumstances. So again, we're talking about our actions on social media and what we run to. So let's go to Genesis 3. And I'm going to read for you. If you're there, you go ahead and read with me. But it says, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahweh Elohim had made. Now you will hear me say Yahweh for the Lord. You will hear me say Elohim. That just means God. So don't worry about that. I just use his names. So just note that down. When it says Lord, you will capital Lord, you'll hear me say Yahweh. And when it says God, you will hear me say Elohim. All right. So let's go back. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahweh or Elohim had made. Didn't say he was the only subtle beast. It just said he was more subtle. And so when we look at that word subtle means it's H6175, and it means to be crafty. It means to be prudent. Okay, so, and in some biblical outlines, it means shrewd. So what does that mean? If the serpent was more crafty, it was more shrewd than any other beast of the field, which Yahweh or Elohim had made. And he said unto the woman, yeah, has Elohim said you shouldn't eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, we can eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God said we shall not eat that. But not only should we not eat it, we're not supposed to touch it lest we die. And the serpent, who is the most subtle, said to her, oh, you shall not surely die. For Elohim knows that in the day that you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise. Now, all of a sudden, now this tree been there forever. As long as they've been there, that tree been there. And as soon as he told her, he began to talk to her, Now suddenly the tree is good for food. Remember, it's subtle. That beast was subtle. Evil is subtle. It's subtle, right? And so now suddenly he talks to her, and suddenly this tree is good for food. Suddenly it's pleasant to the eyes. And then suddenly now it's desired to make one wise. So she took the fruit and she ate it. And then she gave it to her husband and he ate. The reason why I bring up that scripture, we start with that scripture, is because it says, go back to verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. The reason why I go back to verse 1, or I went to Genesis 3:1, is because I want you to understand that evil that was in that serpent is still prevalent today. It's still present today. It's still the same subtle, has the same subtle capabilities as it did then. Eve was used to talking to the animals. Eve was used to being around the animals. This was no big deal. It wasn't uncommon for her to have these conversations with the serpent. But it was his subtleness that caught her. And what I want us to know is, just as easy as it was to get next to Eve, it is just that easy to get next to us as believers. Just because we know the word does not mean that he cannot trick us. Why? Because he is subtle. Evil is subtle. Now, the problem with this was, and how he was able to come in, was because she didn't know everything. As you saw, she gave him partial of the instructions. She added to the instructions. She said, we're not to eat of it and we're not to touch it. And as soon as she said we're not to touch it, that's when the serpent knew, so you haven't got all the instructions, huh? Okay, that's my way in. And let me tell you that as believers, he does the same thing to us. But the difference is that we need to learn how to apply the pressure of the word when he comes, because he's subtle again, and he's going to come in ways that we aren't expecting him to come. He's going to come and catch us off guard doing things that we think are kingdom things. We think that we're helping when we're commenting on things. We think that we're bringing awareness to things when we're posting things about other people in the kingdom. But he's subtle with what he has us do, because he realizes as soon as we comment on something and we begin to tear that person down, then he sees, aha. So they know part of the word, but they miss the other part, or they're not thinking about the other part. So I'm subtle. So he eases his way in, because when something is subtle, you're in it and you don't even realize that you are doing wrong. And that's what is cunning and crafty about the enemy of your soul. All right, everybody got that? Y'all trekking with me? Let me know in the comments that you're trekking with me. Everybody that's here, I want to say shalom to everybody that's here. Good evening to you. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to keep going. So the enemy of your soul has not changed his tactics or the way he does things. He was subtle in the garden. He's subtle now. But how we recognize the enemy and his subtleness is when what he says does not line up with the word, because his track record is the same. He's always going to use partial of the word. He's going to use partial of the instructions, but not all of it, just to see if you know what the word says. let's go somewhere else. Just in case you don't know what I'm talking about or you don't believe me. Let's go to Matthew. We're going to go to Matthew 18 and 15, because that's one instance of evil being subtle, but the enemy of your soul is subtle with you too, because what he wants us to do is get caught up in gossip. He wants us to get caught up in tearing our brothers down. He wants us to get caught up in all this mischief and foolishness and all these shenanigans, so he can keep your eyes off of what you should really be focused on. For the last few months, our feed has been flooded with everything from the church to politics. And guess what? We've been all caught up in it. We have been, Shalom, Minister Phillips, we have been so caught up in all of the posts, all of the conversations, all of the live feeds, everything that goes on, the debates and everything. We've been caught up in that so much that we've kind of put our relationship with the Father on the back burner. He's subtle. Remember, the enemy of your soul is subtle. We are in the last days. And we are in a time where we really need to be buckling down and applying the pressure of the word. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Elohim. And everything that we are hit with, honestly, as believers, what we should be doing with that, because you can't help what's going to be on your feed. But before you get caught up in conversations, before you get caught up in posts, before you get caught up in giving your opinion, did you filter it through the word? Did you see where it applies in the word? Did you see if it's something as a believer that I should even be commenting on? Because just because somebody else posted it or somebody else commented on it, does it mean that I need to comment on it? Or should I sometimes just sit back and look in the word and see what it says about this situation? Because we've been bombarded with things in our feeds in the last few months. And I can tell you that it has been very distracting, even myself. I don't want to talk about it. Every time I open my Facebook, every time I open Instagram, every time I go to Threads, every time I go to YouTube, every time I go to, it used to be Twitter, now it's X. Every time I open it up, I'm bombarded with everything that's going on in the world. But I promise you, he told us that we are to be in the world, but we're not to be of the world. And why is it that we don't remember this when we open our feeds and we see everything that's going on? But I promise you that it is a device of distraction to take us off of doing things the way God or Elohim would want us to do it. We got to apply the pressure of the word. We got to go back to doing things the way Yahweh, our God, would want us to handle them. What are you talking about, Wanda? Let's go to Matthew 18. All right. Matthew 18, let me make sure that I'm in the right spot. Matthew 18. What I want to talk about quickly is I want to give you a few examples of when Satan, the enemy of your soul, was bringing foolishness and gossip, or trying to test to see if the word was known. Like I said, he would always come with a part of the word, right? And so I'm going to go quickly to, I want to find the account when Yeshua went into, which is Jesus, went into the wilderness after he was baptized. So give me a few seconds. I'm going to find that really quick. I had it. I thought I wrote it down. But let me find it real quick. So that's where we're going. If somebody finds it before I do, just let me know. I found it. Matthew 4. All right. Now, we know this story. Yeshua, Jesus, went to John the Baptist when he was baptizing. And after he was baptized, he was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness for a specific reason. He just didn't go there because now I want to go on the fast and I've been baptized, so now I'm going to go on the fast. I'm going to be up here 40 days and 40 nights and I'm going to fast. No, he was led up there for a specific purpose. You can read it. It's right there, Matthew 4:1. He was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to do what? To be tempted of the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, after that, he was hungry. Okay, makes sense. I know some folks are very good at fasting 40 days and 40 nights. Some of us had problems with 3 days and 3 nights. Some of us had problems with 1 day. But hey, he fasted. He did. Yeshua did. He fasted 40 days and 40 nights. And after he fasted, he was hungered. Okay, so now there's an outward appearance going on. Now the flesh is weakened, right? You've been fasting 40 days, 40 nights. You notice he didn't come to him when he was fresh out the water. And the dove had descended on him, and Elohim had said, Yahweh said, this is my beloved, my beloved son, in whom I am well pleased. The devil didn't come in. As soon as he was led up into the wilderness, he knew not to come in. No. He waited till that flesh was weak. He waited till it had been 40 days and 40 nights and he hadn't had anything to eat. So now you're weak. Now you're vulnerable. Now you're at my mercy. And I'm going, because I'm subtle, I'm going to see what I can get away with. But again, this temptation was orchestrated for Yeshua. It was orchestrated. It was allowed. So let's see how Yeshua, Jesus, handled when Satan subtly came, just in his subtle way, came to tempt our Messiah. And so he was hungry, and the tempter, now I want y'all to look at this word tempter with me really quickly, because it's important for you to understand sometimes what words mean. Tempter is parizo, and in the Greek, and it means to test, to scrutinize, or to entice. So the scrutinizer came. The scrutinizer came. What else did it call him? It called him the scrutinizer. It called him what else? The enticer. So the scrutinizer came. The enticer came, and he said, "If you be." Now, isn't that amazing? Didn't Satan, didn't the serpent start off with a question in the Garden of Eden when he started talking to Eve? He started off with a question. And here he starts off with the question: if thou be the son of Elohim, if you be the son of God, command these stones to be made bread. First of all, you're not even sure if this is Yeshua, because you said, if you be. So let me start here. Let me subtly see if you're the type that has to prove who you are. Let me see if there's any ego in you that will say, you know, I'm the Son of Man. Don't come at me with that. You know, I'm a great preacher. You know, I'm a great orator in the gospel. You know, I'm the prophet. You know, I'm the evangelist. You know, I'm the pastor. You know, I'm the apostle. You know who I am. I'm the teacher, ordained and anointed by God. You know who I am. So he started off with a question to see how Yeshua, how Jesus would handle it. But I want you to know that he didn't need to prove anything. He was strong in who he was. And even though he was at a weak state in his flesh, his spirit was strong. Why? Because he had the word on the inside of him. And that's what Satan came to see. What he came to try that word on the inside of Yeshua. And he said, if you be the Son of God, command these stones to be made bread. But Yeshua answered him, it's written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Elohim. He gave him back the word. When Satan came with temptation, when Satan came to test him and try him and to accuse him, he came back with the word of Elohim. He came back with Torah. Why do you say that, Wanda? Because where do you find this? Yeshua said, I don't speak my own words. I speak my Father's words. And what he gave him right there, you can find that in Deuteronomy 8, verse 3, the latter part of verse 3, which is part B, that says, man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Elohim does man live. So Yeshua didn't have to prove anything to him. He didn't even try to go or say anything else. All Yeshua gave him was the word. He applied the pressure of the word. All right. Then the devil took him up into the holy city and set him on a pinnacle of the temple. And he said up to him, here we go again. If thou be, still trying to be subtle with it. If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down. For it's written. Now he's going to try to mimic. Let me tell you something. Satan, the enemy of your soul, will always try to be an imposter and mimic what God has done, what God has said. He will always try to mimic. But I want you to know, just like they said, people, they would tell us all the time, well, Satan, the devil know the word, but he can't always give you all of the word. That's why you have to filter it through the word. When Satan, the enemy of your soul, comes with something to you, that's why you have to apply the pressure of the word. You immediately take that thing and say, wait a minute, wait. What does the word say? Because Yahweh, Yeshua, let me say it this way. Yahweh sent Yeshua. Yeshua came, Jesus came to show us how to walk this thing out. Where Levi, the Levitical priesthood, let us down, because the Levitical priesthood, their job was all things tabernacle and to teach us all things Torah. But they lost it. They dropped the ball. They weren't doing it. So Yahweh says, but he made the plan a long time ago, but we won't go into that. Yahweh said, I got to send my son. And Yeshua came to show us how to walk this out. All Yeshua did throughout his time here on earth, all he did was walk out the word. He demonstrated the word. In every situation that was presented to him, he demonstrated the word. Yeshua applied the pressure of the word. Why did those Sadducees and Pharisees not like John the Baptist? Because he applied the pressure of the word, and he showed them where they had fallen short. He showed them where they were hypocrites. He showed them where now y'all have gone away from the 613 laws and y'all have created 3,000 laws and y'all abiding by those, and you forgot all about the instructions that you are to rule and govern your lives with. And that's why they didn't like They were tired. We got to get rid of John the Baptist. And when Yeshua came on the scene and he took the place of the preaching and the position in the place where John the Baptist was, he took it up where John the Baptist left off. Yeshua took it up. Then they decided, oh, you showing us that we don't know this word either. You're showing us that we're not living this word either. And that's why they wanted him dead as well, because all he ever did was apply the pressure of the word. So let's keep going. We're still talking about what we're faced with on social media and how we need to apply the pressure of the word. So let's keep going. All right. So Yeshua said unto him, it is written, thou shalt not tempt the Lord your God, or you should not tempt Yahweh your Adonai. You should not tempt Adonai your Elohim. And then he takes him up to even a higher mountain, and he shows him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. And he said unto them, all these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall and bow down and worship me. And Yeshua again applied the pressure of the word. Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship Adonai thy Elohim, and him only shall you serve. But I wanted to show you that Satan only knows partial of the word. In verse 6, where he says, for it is written, he shall give his angel charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou shalt dash thy foot against a stone. Where do you find that at? Let's quickly go to Psalms 91. I'm telling you, that's why you got to know the word, because you got to be able to rightly divide. You got to know when he's giving you half of the word and not all of the word. And when you know and realize, when you filter it through the word and you realize that's not all of it, that's not everything he says, then you can apply the pressure of the word and Satan has to flee. You can't get Satan to flee on your own accord. You have to use the word to get Satan to flee. So let's go to Psalms 91, verses 10 through 11. But let's start at 9. This is talking to the believer that lives according to Yahweh's instructions, and they trust in Yahweh's instructions. And because I trust your instructions, I'm going to live according to your instructions. So that's what Psalms 91 is about. So this just isn't for anybody. This just isn't for the willy-nilly. We can't be reading this and applying this to everybody. This is for those who are applying the word to their lives. They're applying those instructions to their lives. And that's what this is talking about. It starts off that he that dwelleth in the secret place of El Elyon, the Most High, shall abide under the shadows of El Shaddai, the Almighty. And we've read that, but let's go down to Psalms. Let's go down to 10. I will read 2, and it says, I will say of Yahweh, he is my refuge. He is my fortress. He is my Elohim, and in him will I trust. Now let's go to 10, because this is where it gets good. And this is the part that Satan tried to quote and tell Adonai, the word that was in Yeshua, tried to give him back his own word and try to tell him it's written. How you gonna tell me what's in me? The word is in me. It's my word. I know what it says, but this is what he tried to give him. Psalms 91:10. I'll start at 9. Because thou hast made Yahweh, which is my refuge, even the Most High, my habitation, there shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come near thy dwelling. 11. For he shall give his angel charge over thee, to keep thee in all your ways, and they shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against the stone. But then right after that, it says, thou shalt tread upon the lion and the adder and the young lion, and the dragon shall thou trample under your feet. But see, when Satan came to him, he didn't give him all of it. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, right? The next part says, to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. Now let's go back to Matthew 4 and read what he said. He said, let's find it. For it is written, he shall give his angels charge concerning thee. And stop there. He missed the other part. And in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou shalt dash thy foot against a stone. See, what Satan, the subtle one, what evil, the subtle one, is not counting on. He's not counting on you knowing the word the way you do. He's not counting on you taking what he says and filtering it through the word. He's not counting on that. But I tell you, when he comes to you with shenanigans, when he comes to you with gossip, when he comes to you with politics and all of these other things, when he comes to you with things that are going on in the world, when he comes to you with things that are going on in the church, are you going to fall for it? Or are you going to apply the pressure of the word? All right, so let's keep going. So what started me, or what gave me the assignment of this, was something that came across my Facebook page. And it wasn't just in my Facebook page. It had been showing up a couple of days on Facebook, couple of days on Instagram. And it's all because somebody took a video and posted the video. And they took a video, and we've seen a lot of this lately, of things going on in the church with pastors giving their sermons and then their messages, and then we're getting sound bites of the messages, and then we see something wrong in the message, and then somebody starts it, they post it, and they start talking about what's wrong in the message, and then we as the kingdom, we start commenting on what's wrong and blah, blah, blah. We will comment what's wrong, and then we'll begin to talk about the individual and tear the individual down. Yes, we do it. We're real guilty of it. We wound our own. We really honestly don't even have to worry about the world coming for the church, because the church comes for the church. And the reason why I'm doing this today is because we need to apply the pressure of the word to our lives in every aspect. You know, I've understood that when we find someone in a fault, when we find something that someone has said, something that someone has preached, it is not for us to get on there and tear them down and wound them where it's apparent that they are already wounded, or they're already missing something, or they're making a grave mistake. Because we've all made mistakes. We have all misinterpreted passages of scriptures, verses, just passages of the Bible itself. We've all made mistakes. We've all fallen. We've all done wrong. But the difference is that the people that are in front of our faces, theirs are being captured while ours is being hidden. And woe unto us if any of the things that we have done was suddenly videotaped and posted for all the world to see. I think we would have a little more empathy on how we handled situations that came across our news feeds. And I saw something several times last week about a specific individual. And honestly, this individual has been across our news feeds a lot lately. And we've all commented on it. I'm guilty of commenting on it. And because I was in introspection this month, these past few, well, it's 10 days, and actually the whole month we're in introspection. And honestly, once you go through the introspection of Sukkot, you never really stop doing it. It just kind of comes natural for you. And it's like second nature. And some things came across my feed months ago about this a specific pastor and his church and what was done in the congregation for a specific individual in the congregation. And everybody has something to say about it, right? It was posted everywhere. Again, the world don't have to come for us. We come for ourselves. We literally come for ourselves. But I started thinking about that this week. And I was like, are we really handling these things the way Yahweh would intend for us to handle them? It tells us that when we find, and I think that's what I was looking for in Matthew 18, I'm going to look for it, that when we find our brother in a fault, it is not our job to post it, broadcast it, make a discussion about it. It's not. I would say if we find them, let's just say we find them quoting something incorrectly, and you bring it to social media. If we do that, I say, and it's a thin line because we got to be careful. The best way to do that is to first uplift the individual, encourage the individual, and then show how we could have done this better, as opposed to taking things that we see and then posting it to bring more attention to it. Because as we read in the beginning in Genesis 3, now the serpent was the most subtle beast out of all the beasts that Yahweh our Elohim made. He is subtle. And he will creep in and have us thinking that we are doing the right thing. We are doing the kingdom thing by exposing what this individual said. And now we're going to bring correction to it. And we're going to talk about how wrong they are. And we're going to talk about how they need to sit down. Or we're going to talk about who is letting this go on? Where did he get this from? And all of this. We're doing all of this instead of doing this the way we have been instructed to do it. And I believe it's Matthew 18 and 15 through 20. I'm going to read it. You know what? I'm going to start. I'm going to go back to that, but let's start at 15. Moreover, if thy brother shall transgress against thee, go tell him his faults between thee and him alone. And if he hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two or more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, well, that's talking about if somebody offended you, then you handle it that way. But we have to also think about, because when we see things posted online that maybe a pastor said or a minister said or someone said delivering their message, and it wasn't quite right, it wasn't according to what the word says, we immediately become offended. And in some cases, we cannot go to that individual But I will tell you that again, the enemy is subtle, and he will quickly have us gossiping about that situation. We will quickly be gossiping about that individual, one to another, and tearing that individual down, throwing them under the bus. That's what we will quickly do subtly without even knowing it. Like I told you, evil is subtle, and he wants to see if you're going to remember what Yahweh has said, how we handle things. And it also tells us that in the last day, many are going to be, and I'm paraphrasing, so don't say, Wanda, that ain't what it says. It talks about many of us by many different doctrines and beliefs, that some of us that were strong in the word, that believe the word, that some of us will be led astray by false doctrines and other teachings that have nothing to do with the word of Elohim and your Bible. And so we have to realize that when we see it come before us. But if we apply the pressure of the word when we see these things come before us, we won't allow ourselves to get caught up in the gossip. We won't allow ourselves to get caught up in the shaming of an individual. We will not allow ourselves to get caught up in saying where they're wrong and what needs to be done and who needs to do it. We won't get caught up in all of that. But what we can do is apply the word. Now, when we see something that is being quoted incorrectly, if you want to comment, all you have to do is go find the passage, find the verse, find the scripture, make sure it's in context of the content, and then apply that. Then we post that. Well, this is what it said, just like Yeshua said, well, it is written. And that's all you have to say. You don't need to get into the individual's character. You don't need to get into the individual's lifestyle. You don't need to get into the individual, what he's doing in the past. You don't need to do all of that. Or if you're going to say anything, just apply the word. Apply the truth of the word. And then you know what you do then? Then you do what it tells us to do as well. Pray for them. Pray for them. Because again, evil is subtle. And if we're not careful, we're not exempt from him suddenly coming in and making us make a mistake. We're not exempt from that. And that's why when we see it, apply pressure. Pray for them. Pray that they will get the correct understanding. Pray that someone will come along that they will hear and that they respect, that will come and show them, look, this was wrong. You said something, and let's go to the word. Let's look this up, and let me show you what this says. But you said this, but this is what it says here. And we have to be careful because we don't want to give people the wrong thing. We don't want to lead people astray. That's what we need to do. We need to apply the pressure of the word. I hope you're following me today. Listen, if you're here with me today, I thank you for joining me. Please do me a favor. If you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share. If you're on Facebook, I made it public so you can share it, because as kingdom believers, we must be very careful in these last days of what we run to. We must be careful that we aren't running to mischief. We must be careful that we're not thinking because the enemy of your soul has made you think that you're doing a good thing by posting these different situations with these different people. If we don't post it correctly, then we're doing nothing more than gossiping. And do you know, when we gossip about someone, that is just like death. You're causing them to bleed. In Joel, it talks about you're thrusting them through. When we gossip about people, we're thrusting our brother through. It's right there in Joel. And the Bible talks about gossip. So we want want to give you one more example, and then I'm done. I am finished. One more example, because a lot of times we need examples of how sometimes we aren't doing things correctly. There was a case, I read it in my Bible in the New Testament, when Yeshua was on the scene, and he was on the earth for 33 years, but they only had him for a small amount of time. And in that time, they had some situations and some circumstances brought to him. And there was a woman brought to him in adultery. I want to get the exact scripture that she was brought to him in adultery. John 7, 53. Let me go there really quick. So those people, the Sadducees and the Pharisees and the religious rulers and the Levites, they were always trying to trip Yeshua up, because he would always get them with the word. He would always get them with the word. And I'm trying to find it as I talk. But you know the story about them bringing the woman that was caught in adultery to him. It says John 8. Let me go over one. John 8 and 11. All right. The woman brought in adultery. Yeshua went unto the Mount of Olives, and early in the morning he came again into the temple, and all the people came unto him, and he sat down and he taught them. And the scribes, here they go, the scribes and the Pharisees. See, first of all, let's stop there. How they know what was going on? How they know where the woman was and what she was doing and who she was with and where was the dude she was with? Because she sure wasn't by herself. But it always amazed me that the scribes and the Pharisees brought the woman unto him taken in adultery. How y'all know where she was at, where she was hanging out, and was there a local inn, that she was in, and y'all knew? But how y'all know? Because y'all not supposed to be about that life. So how y'all know what was going on, and y'all knew the exact place she was? How y'all know that? That's all I'm saying. But anyway, the scribes and the Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery. And when they sat her in the midst of him, they put her in the middle because he was teaching, right? They said, Master, this woman was taken in adultery. We caught her in the very act. They busted in on them. How did they know where she was? Where she was with dude? How they know? We gonna leave that right there. She was caught in the very act. Now they go to Torah. Now Moses in the law, in the Torah, commanded us that such should be stoned. Now, they were absolutely correct. But what do you say? What do you say? The one who has the word in him, the one who says, I don't speak my own words, but the words that I speak, they are my Father's words. The one who came and had the word dwelling on the inside of him. They're going to ask him what it says, right? And this they said, tempting him again. Satan, the enemy of your soul is subtle, and he's always going to come. We looked up that word, tempter. The scrutinizer came. Now these the Sadducees and the Pharisees. These are the leaders in the temple, but they come in as a scrutinizer. They're coming as the enticer. Also, who is the accuser of the brethren? What the words say there? Come on. Satan is the accuser of the brethren. And here you come. And you coming, the religious leaders, the Pharisees and the scribes, you're coming to entice and scrutinize the Messiah, the one, the living word, the bread of life, the light, the one who has the word on the inside of him. Okay. And he said, this they said, tempting him, that they might be able to accuse him. But Yeshua, he never opened his mouth. He never opened his mouth. He stooped down and with his finger, he wrote in the ground as though he didn't even hear them. Now, that's a whole nother live we could talk about what went on when he wrote in that ground. There are different stories out there about what wrote in the ground, but all I'm going to tell you is this, is that we were made, we were formed from the earth, right? And Yahweh made us in the earth. You got to go back to Genesis. He formed us from the earth and he blew into us dirt and gave us life. So all he had to do, remember, the word is on the inside of him. The word spoke and gave us life. And all he had to do was stick his finger in that ground and write. And he could be easily communicating with everybody standing there. But I'm going to leave that right there and we're going to keep pushing. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, he that is without sin among you, let him cast a stone at her. And again, he stooped down and wrote in the ground. Can I tell you what I think went on? Y'all don't hold me to it. It ain't what the Bible says. But because we are dirt, and the word created us, and the word formed us, and he blew his breath into us and caused us to be a living soul. I believe he stuck his finger when that second time, and when he was writing in the ground, after he said, he that is without sin among you, let him cast the first stone. And I would not be surprised if suddenly everybody was hearing their sins as he wrote in the ground that second time. But that's just Wanda. Y'all don't hold me to it, but it is something to think about. And they which heard him, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even to the last. And there was nobody left but Yeshua and the woman standing in the midst. And Yeshua lifted himself up and saw that it was nobody there but the woman. And he said unto her, woman, where are those, thine accuser? Hath no man condemned thee? Here's why. When they brought Yeshua the gossip, when they brought the woman, and she was caught in the act, but they brought the gossip to him. The Sadducees and the Pharisees, to tempt him to see what he would say. And all he did was apply the pressure of the word. He gave them back the word. You without sin cast the first stone. That's in Torah. Because if you sinned and you were caught in sin, then that was the instructions. They take you out of the city and they stone you. So he knew that. And that's what he gave them. When they brought him gossip, he applied the pressure of the word. You bringing me gossip? You bringing me this woman? You throwing her in my face, accusing her? You caught her in the act, but instead of doing what you should be doing, you want to bring her to me and accuse me and see what I'm going to do with her. I'm going to apply the word. You without sin, cast the first stone. Because if that's the case, Then all of us. You want to stone us? Then let us get a whole bunch of stones, because we about to stone everybody up in here. First, we're going to start with the ones that brought her. Then we're going to start from the eldest to the youngest. And then we're going to start with everybody that gathered around to hear the gossip. Because again, Satan is the accuser of the brethren. And a lot of those people wasn't even there. They just saw what they was doing and followed them because they wanted to get the gist. They wanted to get the tea. But I'm here to tell you today that we must be careful in this last day. One thing about Yeshua, and one thing I love about him, is that the Satan, although he tried to tempt him, although he tried to accuse him, although they tried to scrutinize him and entice him, when Satan came, he found nothing in Yeshua. Do we sin? Yes, because we're born in sin and shaping in iniquity, but our job is to apply the word to our lives. Our job is to walk this thing out, and that is daily. We must walk this thing out, because let me tell you that when we start and aid and assist with the gossip, when we start and aid and add on to the accusing of the brethren, then we are the wicked. The wicked aren't the people in the world. The wicked aren't the people on the outside. Baby, the wicked are the ones that know to do good and do evil. We the ones that call ourselves saved. We the ones that call ourselves the kingdom believers. When we accuse our brethren, when we blast it on social media, when we make it a post and make it a discussion that what we gonna talk about now, this don't make no sense, and this is going on and that is going on. Excuse me. And instead of taking that individual to prayer, how about we make a post? These are the individuals we're praying for. These are the people we're holding up before Yahweh. These are the people we want to encourage. How about we do that? Instead of taking something and run tell that. Because again, it's not like we're blameless. It's not like we haven't made mistakes. And gosh almighty, if anybody got a hold of something that I did and suddenly it became a meme or suddenly it became a social media post, baby, I would cry up under somewhere and die. You know, we would probably be contemplating suicide, wanting to die, and all of this. And then some of us, I hear it. I thank you, Father. I heard somebody say, I just heard it, that, well, they should expect that because they put themselves out there like that. They put themselves out there to be scrutinized. They got these big old churches and doing these big live streams, and they out there like that. Really? What does the word say about that? What does God, our Father, Yahweh, say about that? Does it say, well, they put themselves out there, so they should expect it, and that's what we're supposed to do? No, that's not our job. Our job is to hold them accountable. Our job is when we find them in a fault, we're to pray for them. If you can't get to them to help correct them, then you pray that Yahweh sends somebody to them to show them in error. And if you're going to make the post about it, say, look, this is what the word says about this. I've seen this somewhere, blah, blah, blah. And instead of tearing them down, because that's what people are going to do, then use it as a teachable moment and say, look, this is what it really says. Because guess what? Not everybody is well versed in this word. Not everybody is well versed in it. And somebody will take what they said and use it as it being the end all be all. Because how many times have we taken what somebody said and then, or just a piece of the verse or a piece of the passage? Yep, that's what it says. And we quoting it. And then when you go find it out for yourself, you realize it didn't even say that. That's why it says, study to show thyself approved unto Yahweh, a workman that need not be ashamed, being able to rightly divide the word of truth. And let me tell you, Satan the enemy of your soul, is very subtle. And he's going to slip in unaware and have us thinking, oh, well, I'm helping. I'm bringing awareness to this, that we got to be, we got to know what we talking about. This is the foolishness that's being preached in churches. This is the foolishness that's being said. No, that's wicked. We're being wicked. That's wickedness, and we're being wicked because that's not what he told us to do. We need to go to the word, go to the Bible, apply the word to it. And if you find somebody in a fault, just pray for them. That's all we got to do. You know what? Social media probably would be so boring if we did more of that, because that's what it is. That's the purpose of it, to put everything out there. But you know what? I'm tired of Christendom being on display. I'm tired of our faults and our idiosyncrasies and our proclivities being on display for the world to see. That's why they laugh at us. Y'all talking about that's why people, that's for real. Because we shouting on the mountaintops one thing, but then when we come down in the valley, we live in something else. When all we have to do is really walk it out. If we walk it out daily, somebody will see and inquire. I saw them bring some gossip to you about a Shinkashe, and you didn't entertain the gossip. You turned them away. And the way you turned them away was amazing to me. How were you able to do that? That's your opportunity to share the word. We ain't got to yell it from every street corner. All we got to do is walk it out. So today, the next time we see something posted on our social media and it's accusing the brethren, or it's exposing someone's faults, someone's proclivities, someone's fall, someone's idiosyncrasies. Maybe they just misquoted a scripture. Before you go in and comment on it, or before you go to give your opinion or even read the thread, think about this. Now, this is really a time when we should say, WWJD, what would Jesus do? What would Yeshua do? Right? How would Yahweh want me to handle this? Am I going to apply the word, or am I going to join in on the wickedness? We're living in the last days, and we have no idea when we're going to take our last breath. We don't know if we're going to walk out that door and come back. We don't know tonight if we sleep and then suddenly we hear and it's the rapture. All of us will stand before Yahweh. We will stand before our Elohim. We will stand before God to be an account of our lives. All of us will stand there, but all of us won't stay. And the sad part is, most of us that are in these pews, Monday through Sunday, Bible study, YPWW, Baptist Training Unit, Sunday School, Bible study, revivals, shut-ins, conferences, seminars. We got the t-shirts. We got the thermoses. We got the sippy cups. We got the badges. We got the key ring. We got Jesus on our phones. We got Jesus and worship on our hats. We're the worship leaders. When that day comes, sadly, because of what we have allowed ourselves to be involved in, may be the very thing that might cause him to say, "Depart from me, because you worked iniquity." And you be like, wait, no, come on, y'all, no, come on. Now look, I fed the hungry. I worked the deliverance services. I was an usher. I did praise and worship. I did everything. But how did you take care of your brethren? How did you uplift your brethren when you found them in a fault? There's a number of things he can ask us about. He can that I know that we sit in the pews Sunday after Sunday and haven't done any of it, but we'll talk about that later. Some of that is forgiveness. And yeah, but today we're talking about gossiping and tearing each other down and what we're engaging in on our social media pages. The last thing we want is for him to say, depart from me because you worked iniquity. Now, I am only sharing this because he pressed upon me to share it. That we must be careful what we engage in. And we must make sure that we aren't doing like the Sadducees and the Pharisees did when they brought the woman. They caught her in the act. Some of these things that we see, it's true. It happened. But how are we handling it when it comes before our faces? When Satan came to Yeshua in the wilderness and tried to give him pieces of the word, because that will happen too. Even if you say, well, I'm not going to comment on that. We should do this. People will give you pieces of the word. Again, he's subtle. Make sure you know they say the whole roll. Make sure you know that word, that it is hidden in your heart. David said, teach me your word. And he also said, I want to hide the word in my heart that I might not sin against you, Yahweh. And I'm telling you, I had to back out a lot of posts, getting ready to give my opinion. I'm not telling you to do something that I didn't do. I had to back out of a lot of posts because I'm looking, now, back right on out, Wanda. Back right on out. Everything we see, I'm going to say it one more time. Everything we see doesn't have to have a response from us. If you see something and it's about somebody, it might not be a positive thing and they are part of the kingdom, just pray for them. Pray for them. And if you can add the word to it without talking about the person, then go ahead, do that. Drop it like it's hot and keep on going. But make sure that you aren't being caught into something subtly that will cause you to be doing wickedness. We got to check everything that we're doing in these last days. I mean, everything. We literally got to walk right. We're born in sin, shaping in iniquity. But I want the same thing. And if somebody tells you that ain't possible. No, Yeshua came to show us that it was possible. I need the enemy to come and say, God, dog it, I couldn't find nothing in her. That's possible because he came to show us how to walk it out. The word was placed in a human body. He was human, tempted on every side that we are. But again, when Satan came, he couldn't find nothing in him. That's my prayer. That when he come, he can't find nothing in me. And that means I need a whole lot more of this word. Seeking him, studying it day and night so that I might not sin against him. I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank you for hanging out with me this week. Before we get re-scrolling and we get ready to comment, just think about it. Let me apply the pressure of the word. You might have some situations you're faced this week. apply the pressure of the word. Go find it. It's in the word. There is nothing new under the sun. There is nothing that we're going to go through. There is nothing that we're going to face that you can't find an answer for it in the word. So before we speak, before we act, before we do, stop. Give Yahweh thanks, and then look for it in the word and apply pressure of the word. If it ain't no more that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh does man live. If that's all you can remember to shut the enemy up, then do that. Do that. But before we speak, before we act, apply the pressure of the word. You guys have an amazing week. Thank you for being here with me. We will be back next week with more apply pressure, but a different topic. And I hope you will be here for that. I hope today's message was beneficial. It was essential. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was practical, that you can apply it to your life. I'm not one of those speakers that use big old words. I'm just Wanda, and I'm always going to be Wanda, her authentic self, who I am. But I just know that there are some things as believers of the kingdom that we should not be caught up in. We are in this world. What is it? That we are in this world, but not of the world. If I mess it up, you know what I mean. We're not supposed to act like the world. How about I do that? Because right now, I'm messing up that whole thing. We're not supposed to act like the world acts. We're in the world, but not of the world. I think that's it. We're in the world, but we're not of the world. And the way we handle things, we shouldn't handle it the way the world does. The world hurts their wounded when they're down. The world gossips about their own. The world is a hypocrite. The world tears each other down, and when they're down, they step on them and stab them. And I remember there was a cartoon, Bugs Bunny, and the little I'll just say he was a little warrior man, and tribal man. He was a little tribal man, and he had Bugs Bunny in the hole, and he had stabbed Bugs Bunny in the hole, and Bugs Bunny was dying, right? So he stabbed him a couple times, and Bugs Bunny was dying. And the more Bugs Bunny cried out, the more he kept stabbing him. And Bugs Bunny, later it showed that Bugs Bunny wasn't even in that hole. He was laughing at him, but just making the noise. But that's what we do. That's what the world does. They find that you're already hurting, and they just keep stabbing you more, making you bleed out. And I'm noticing that that's what we are doing to our wounded, our hurt, those that are fallen. So much so, they can't get up. And that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to get them, love on them, encourage them. Someone come and help them and build them back up. We're supposed to restore them. But instead of doing that, we're gossiping about them and making it worse. So I'm done. This week, apply the pressure of the word. Because I promise you, just like I'm delivering it, I'm going to have to do the same thing. So until I see you again next Sunday, remember we are here Sundays, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I think 5 or 6 p.m. Central Mountain Time. But meet me here because we're going to have some great discussions about applying the word. And after this series is done and when he releases me, then we are going to have a seminar or a program where we are going to be in person talking about applying pressure so that when we go into 2025, we're going in applying pressure, mind, body, and soul. Have a wonderful week. And until next week, I'll see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.